Hi there. In this video, I'm going to talk about how winter affects your fertility and share some practical tips to help you boost your reproductive health during the colder winter months. If you're new here, my name is Dr. Mark Sklar. I'm also known as the fertility expert, and I'm here to help guide you on your natural fertility journey. That's right. Everything that I'm sharing in this Fertility TV episode comes from my years of experience, 20 years for that matter, helping women optimize their health and achieve their dream of becoming mothers. So I want you to stick around because by the end of this video, you'll have actionable steps that you can start implementing today to support your fertility this winter. But before we get started with today's episode, I did create this free guide called the Fertility Foods Guide, where you get a fertility approved shopping list approved by me and some recipes that can help you get started. Okay, I'm gonna leave the link in the description below this video so you can download it for free. So many of you might be thinking, how does our fertility change in the winter months? That seems weird. It seems odd. Why would that happen? Well, first and foremost, our body, all of our hormones, the way our body functions, fluctuates at different times of the year, at different seasons and with the seasons. This is very much something that is commonplace when we start talking about, traditional Chinese medicine or ancestral medicine, or just culturally, we adjust to the seasons, right? Some seasons are hotter, some seasons are colder, some are drier. Same thing with environments, right? Certain environments are warmer, colder, drier, wetter, whatever that might be. So winter is really no different from that. Right? And we have to account for that, or we should be accounting for that. So in the winter months, the daylight hours are less, right? The sun goes down earlier, we have more dark hours, and it's also colder. So as a result, that can impact our hormones, can impact our body. Some of the ways that it actually impacts us is it impacts our melatonin levels. When we have more darker hours, our melatonin levels are higher, and so maybe we get tired a little earlier in the evening or in the day. We're maybe a little bit more fatigued throughout the day if it's darker, right? And for those parts of the world that are darker for longer time than other parts, so in the north, right? I live in Southern California, so yes, we get dark earlier, but not as dark and not as early as, let's just say, Alaska or Minnesota or parts of Canada, right? I mean, those parts are also colder. And so these are things that we need to account for. As our melatonin levels rise and we want to go to sleep earlier, our circadian rhythms are thrown off. And one of the things that happens as a result of that is actually this can impact our estrogen levels and our progesterone levels, actually in men. So that's in women. And in men, it can impact testosterone levels. So these are all things that we need to consider overall as we are thinking about fertility at different times of the season. I don't know about all of you, but I act differently in the wintertime. I feel differently in the wintertime. And so we need to account for that overall. But when we're talking about our hormones and our fertility, then this brings up different questions that you maybe have never thought about before that maybe you need to start thinking about a little bit more right now. One thing we do know to be true during the winter months is that it's colder, right? Regardless of where you live, it's colder, right? Even if you lived in Florida or the Caribbean where it's warm, it's still cooler than what you're used to. So as a result of that, we need to account for that temperature shift. And one of the main reasons we want to stay warmer is because that helps with circulation. The colder we get, the slower and more poor our circulation is. And we want to make sure that we have good circulation going to our reproductive organs and that we're staying nice and warm. I like during the winter months to make sure that we're staying cozy. You can't see my feet right now, but I do have my slippers on because they are cozy inside my slippers and I want to keep my feet warm. In the world of fertility, many of you have probably heard that we want to keep our feet warm and not to walk around barefoot on cold floors. That is something that comes from Chinese medicine. The sole of your feet is a direct connection to your reproductive organs, to your uterus. And if they are cold, then the belief is that your uterus is cold, and we don't want a cold uterus. We want a warm, nice, inviting uterus with nice, good circulation. So we want to make sure our feet stay warm. We want to make sure our uterus and our low back stay warm. So whether you have a blanket to wrap around but we don't want to expose it. We want to really just kind of stay cozy, stay warm, take some nice warm baths, some warm showers, maybe a heating pad that you can utilize in those areas, some nice herbal tea. This is something that's really important, that even though we might like the cold weather, we still want to make sure that our body stays warm, okay? So you can have both. You can be cool because it's cold outside, but we want to make sure that our body, and especially for all of you, your uterus stays warm. One thing that's often done in some traditional cultures is that women will take like a silk scarf or wool scarf, and a thin, that's why silk is easier, and they'll wrap it around their low belly and low back, like underneath their shirt. It's the first layer, and then they kind of layer from there. That helps kind of keep a little bit more warmth in that specific area. So I do recommend you try that if you tend to be colder in that area. Something that Chinese medicine likes to do, besides some like nice heat lamps, is moxibustion on your low abdomen and low back as well. You can use it anywhere, but that's a nice place to do it. If you don't know much about moxibustion, you can look it up. It's a fun thing to do. It's made from the herb, or the weed for that matter, mugwort. In line with staying warm in the winter months is what can we do with our diet, with our nutrition, to keep ourselves a little bit warmer? Well, we do know that fat helps keep us warmer, right? So those who have a little bit more fat on their body are a little bit warmer. And if we think about animals with more, thicker fat layers, they are warmer and they're easier in colder climates or in the winter time. So one of the ways we can do that is actually increasing our intake of fatty foods. One of my favorite way to do that is with, nice, good quality fat-rich fish, and eating more of that at this time. We also do tend to eat a little bit more red meat during this time, so that nice marbled, fatty red meat would also be helpful. Again, all of this comes with the caveat that it's good quality animal products, animal meat. But I like stews. My lunch today was a nice hearty beef stew that we made in the house, and that just fills me up. It makes me feel nice and full and satiated, but it also makes me warm, right? So I like that piece as well. So, incorporating those things into your diet. But another thing that I really like to incorporate in my diet when I'm cooking is more warm spices. So this is a time where we would add more ginger and more garlic and more cinnamon, more nutmeg. It's why you see it in some of the recipes. This is where drinking a nice bone broth every day, a nice warm cup or mug of bone broth, maybe adding additional spices to it, some additional pepper, some garlic, some ginger. If you like cinnamon, go ahead and add that in. All of that is very warming to our body, also helps to warm us up. It's not just like the temperature of the soup or the stew or the bone broth, it's also the temperature of the herbs that you're infusing it with, like garlic and ginger. That can go a long way. So I really want to encourage you to add those things into your diet as well. So we're going to keep taking that theme across the board here, right? It's cold. How can we warm up our bodies in multiple ways? And we're going to do that both through nutrients, through lifestyle, through diet. Exercise is super important, continues to be even in the winter months. It just might look a little bit different. So even if you're getting outside and going for a hike, you might choose a certain time of day to do that versus a different time of day. You might be bundled up differently, right? And so you still need to maintain good, healthy blood flow. If you notice that when you are exercising, you do feel warmer in general, not just when you're exercising, but obviously when you're exercising, but even after that, you feel in general, you've got better circulation and more warmth, and you also have more energy. So that will help to balance out the darker, colder winter months. So we want to make sure that we are doing that actively. But the winter months, in terms of just self-care, this is the time to withdraw a little bit more inward. It's why bears hibernate. They go and sleep and stay warm and get away from the cold, but they're also kind of withdrawing from the world. And that's the same thing that you all can do in a positive way with a little bit of focus and consciousness, right? So this is the time to withdraw and go inward, to do some more mindfulness practices, some more breathing exercises. By the way, breathing can be very warming if it's done properly. So deep breathing and meditation. Journaling, this is a wonderful time to journal and plan, especially as we're winding down a year and moving towards a new year, although you can do this any time of the year. But just like projecting, planning, preparing for the new year, I think that's really, really important. Creating a warm, cozy environment to be in and to sleep in so that you could feel good and sleep better, right? Like I like when I sleep In the winter months, I like that the air outside is cold in my room, but I like to be warm underneath my blankets, right? Because that keeps me nice and warm. So there's a balance. I do sleep better also in the wintertime. Many of you might find that to be true. All of these things, this restoration, recovery, rejuvenation by just withdrawing inward, the journaling, the eating more warm, cozy foods, eating warm spices, all of these things are going to help to counterbalance the cold months, the longer, darker days, and they're going to be more nourishing and nutritious to your hormones and to your cycle. So if you start to see things shifting a little bit, this is the time to kind of make those changes for yourself. Remember to go back and test for vitamin D so you know how much you should take, to be conscious of your melatonin intake during this time of year, but to test it out and play with it. This is the time to just withdraw a little bit more inward, be more retrospective, allow yourself to contemplate where you want to be and how you want this part of your journey to go. Take advantage of this. This doesn't have to be a negative. This can be a positive, and I want all of you to use it and spin it in that way. All right. So these are my tips. This is one, first and foremost, how cold and winter can impact your hormones and your fertility. But these are some suggestions to counterbalance that so that you have a solid, good, healthy, fertile winter months ahead, and hopefully, positive pregnancy, baby dust winter months as well. To keep learning more about your fertility, keep watching how this woman got pregnant naturally after years of trying to get pregnant. I'll leave that link below. And if, like her, you want my help on your fertility journey as your coach, remember to apply for the Hope Coaching Program using the link in the description below. Until the next video, stay fertile.